Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. I also have some self-study courses about manifesting your specific person. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. In today's video, I want to answer a question that I'm being asked quite often by a lot of people, and it has to do with the whole attachment theory in relationships. And the question I get a lot, including from coaching clients, is if my partner is an avoidant, if my SP is an avoidant, is it possible to manifest them? Can I manifest them? So I wanted to approach this whole attachment theory today from the manifesting point of view, from the conscious manifesting point of view, and go a little deeper from that perspective and see if I can clarify a few things for you guys that you may find helpful. So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So as I just said, I talk to a lot of people, and I also have coaching clients who have come to me saying, I'm dating an avoidant, or I'm manifesting an avoidant, or my ex is an avoidant, but I still want to manifest them back, and so on. And the reason so many people are asking and wondering if it's even possible to manifest someone who's an avoidant is due to the way people with an avoidant attachment style dominantly show up, at least according to the attachment theory in psychology. And this includes anything from avoiding too much communication, avoiding too much contact, perhaps avoiding to see you so much, all the way to not opening up about their feelings, not even being in touch with their feelings, not being comfortable, coming closer to you, becoming more emotionally intimate with you, keeping things at more of a surface level, not committing, and so on. So first of all, let me say here that I do think there's a lot of merit in the whole theory of attachment, in the sense that when you have certain behaviors showing, when people show up a certain way for you, or when you show up a certain way towards other people, it can be useful to identify those patterns, perhaps even put a label on them, not for the sake of putting a label and keeping it there, but as a way of identifying and potentially recognizing those patterns that need changing and shifting and developing. So while such labels can be helpful, from the point of view of conscious manifesting and from the point of view of everyone is you pushed out, meaning that your dominant energy, your dominant state, who you dominantly are within, are actually being mirrored by other people around you, and that includes your romantic partner, the dynamic often goes deeper than that. And it's not so much a question of, can I manifest someone who's an avoidant? I mean, the answer is yes, of course you can. But the more important question is, and the question that you need to be addressing within yourself is, what within yourself is attracting people who are showing up as avoidant in their relationship with you and in their connection with you? Or perhaps, because I have seen this many, many times, what within you is prompting someone who might be dominantly securely attached act as an avoidant? And avoid communication, avoid emotional intimacy, avoid opening up, avoid coming closer to you in one way or more. And I'm sure many of you who are familiar with attachment theory must also be familiar with the dynamic between anxious and avoidant. In other words, you have one side of the relationship, one person in the relationship who is anxiously attached, while the other person in the relationship is showing up as being avoidantly attached. The reason this dynamic is so common, and again, I'm not talking from the psychology point of view, I'm talking from the conscious manifesting, everyone is you pushed out point of view, is because the person who is chasing the other person who is labeled as the avoidant, which typically is the anxious side of the relationship, the anxious person in the relationship, the person who is anxiously attached, also has a part of themselves that is actually avoidant. But what do we mean by that? We don't mean, obviously, that they're showing up as the avoidant partner. Of course, they're not. They are the exact opposite. They're chasing, they're clinging, they're looking for constant validation, they take everything personally, they have a fear of losing their person, and so on. All the traits that come with the anxious, what we call the anxious attachment in attachment theory. But what those anxiously attached people are actually avoiding, and that is the avoidant part within themselves, is their own self. In other words, and to put it very simply, instead of fulfilling themselves from within, instead of building the best life they can for themselves, instead of building their self-concept, their self-security, their own sense of safety within relationships, they are projecting that need onto the people that they are related to. And usually that primarily includes their romantic partners. In other words, they're associating their completeness, their fulfillment, their wholeness with what their person is saying, what they're doing, how they're behaving, how they're showing up, every little thing, every little action, or every little lack of action, and they interpret it in a way that feeds their insecurities even further. So instead of doing work within yourself, instead of finding your inner happiness, you are essentially outsourcing your happiness and placing the burden of your own happiness onto another person. And that other person, the person who is labeled as the avoidant, may truly have their own issues, may truly have some issues with intimacy, with opening up, with allowing other people to come closer to them emotionally, and so on. Or, in many, many cases, they are a person who is much more securely attached, and they end up intimidated by that whole burden placed upon them by another person, that they are responsible for the other person's happiness. So next time you guys start thinking about attachment theory, which again, I'm going to repeat, it's a very valid theory, start thinking about it from the point of view of yourself, not the point of view of the other person, who the other person is, how they're showing up, etc. Because how they're showing up is always 100% a mirror of who you dominantly are within. And if you're manifesting someone who you've labeled as an avoidant, chances are that there's a good deal of avoidance within yourself first. And once again, this is the kind of avoidance I just described. It is the avoidance of self. The avoidance of giving yourself your own happiness. The avoidance of choosing yourself. The avoidance of choosing to build your self-concept, to build your inner strength, to build your inner fulfillment and your inner completeness and your inner wholeness, and instead outsourcing these to another person. Associating your happiness with specific outcomes, with what this other person does or doesn't do, or says or doesn't say, how fast they respond to messages, how they respond to messages, if they were short, if they wrote a long message, and so on. And making your assessment of your own value as a person, of your own lovability, of your own worth, of your own sense of deserving of what you want, dependent on that other person, on their actions, on their words, on how they're showing up, and so on. In other words, outsourcing your happiness, outsourcing the inner work that you should be doing on yourself anyway, onto another person. And if the other person doesn't show up the exact way that you want, there's this very convenient label of calling them an avoidant. They have an avoidant attachment style. So the problem is not mine, the problem is theirs. So to answer your original question, yes, of course you can manifest someone who's an avoidant. Of course you can see an avoidant, like any other trait, change and show up a different way. But first, you have to dig deeper into yourself and take an honest look at how you're showing up, at what your assumptions are, at what your expectations are, at what burden you might be placing on that person to fulfill you and to complete your happiness, when your happiness is always, without exceptions, a product of your own inner work, and at the end of the day, your own responsibility. And if you find any problems in those kinds of patterns, you want to start changing and shifting those patterns so that the world around you, including your avoidant partner, starts changing and starts showing up in a different way that now reflects your new self-concept. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.